getting everything ready to present to the city shortly, and to everyone that is hopefully very interested in our project. So first of all, roll call. Let me go through it. Benita Raleigh Watford,
Present.
Carl Dickens,
Here.
Rick McQuaid,
Here.
Patsy Brusha here, Michael Witherspoon,
Here.
Tyler Fairburn.
I'm here.
Okay, so we do have a quorum. I think Angela Wasuna is not with us yet. She's soon to join us as soon as she gets off the train from New York. So the first thing on our agenda tonight is approval of the minutes of May 11th. Does anyone please present a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve them.
Okay, Carl makes a motion, second.
I'll second them.
All right, Benita seconds it. Are there any changes, discussion on the minutes? Okay, hearing none and not seeing any hands raised. All those in favor of approving the minutes as presented?
Aye. Aye.
Okay, they are so moved. Is there anyone in the public that is either present or in Zoom, either present at City Hall or on Zoom, wishing to address us this evening?
Yes, we have Alex Knopp.
Okay, Alex. Anyone else?
No. Alex, I'm moving you over to a panelist so we can hear you and see you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Can you hear me?
We can. Sure.
Good.
Yes.
Thank you.
On Zoom.
Good. Thank
I've
you.
lost. Okay. Alex,
Sure.
now
Yes.
a former mayor would like to address us. Alex?
Yeah. Thank you, Patsy. First of all, thank you for all of your hard work in this massive review of the city charter. And one thing I would like to ask, and then make a comment about, and maybe Steve, you might be the appropriate person to ask. When do you make a recommendation about what form the charter revision proposal should be presented to the public? Because the awkward part about making a recommendation to you is that until the final proposals are made, it's difficult to guess. But I think now that they've taken shape in your draft proposal, I have an idea of obviously what you'll be presenting, and I have a suggestion about how to present it to the public. I didn't know whether that's part of your recommendation to the council, or does the council make that decision?
Okay, Steve, could you address that for us,
Thank you.
please?
Thank you, Mayor. It's nice to see you, Mayor. It's been a
Good to see
while.
you, Steve.
Yeah. So the commission will be tonight voting out a draft of the charter. I'm going to ask them all to take a look at their respective chapters one more time, so we clean it up. And on June 2nd, we're going to submit the charter to the Common Council. We will explain the changes that we've made in the document. I will draft a letter which will be for Patsy's signature, which will try to lay things out thematically that will kind of give the commission an idea of what the natural breakdowns are. I think I know where you're going with this with regard to the questions on the ballot. But ultimately, the ballot question issue is an issue for the council to resolve, and they will resolve that in their last go around. The way this works now, I was going to explain it to Benita. I might as well use this time to explain it to the entire body, including the mayor. We send what is called a draft report under the charter revision statutes of the state of Connecticut to the council. The council will be setting up a series of meetings. They've been scheduled already. And the intent of those meetings is we will be making a presentation. Members of the commission will be hopefully present at all those meetings to answer questions as we go through the process. If they have no recommendations, if they think everything we've done is sterling and untouchable, they can, within 45 days, basically state that they're accepting our report as our final report. If they accept it as the final report, they would then vote on the charter, approve or disapprove in whole or in part. And once they have an approved document, they would then develop the questions for the ballot. What's more likely to happen, although not because anybody has said this to me, but from my experience around the state with charter revision, they're bound to have some recommendations. There might be something that the commission missed. There might be things that require some further clarity, and that's always a possibility in these things, especially the massive restructuring we've done to the charter. And they would then come back and meet with us, with this commission, sometime in early July, mid-July, and lay out what those recommendations are. And then this commission would then reconvene, and the commission would be limited to deal only with the recommendations that have come from the council. So one of my jobs in this dance between the council and the commission is to make sure that whatever recommendations come from the council are broad enough so that we can negotiate a final outcome that would be ultimately acceptable, unless there's a real difference of opinion. And so then they would get it back with our final report. We would either acquiesce to their recommendations or reject their recommendations, and then their decision would be to vote up or down on the whole thing, down on the whole thing, or vote to approve part of it or reject part of it. And at that moment, sometime in August, they will develop their questions. My expectation is that once we move over to that venue, then I'm sure that I will be engaging with leadership and with members of the body on starting to think about the thematic breakdown of how questions should be broken down for the November ballot. So that's how the process works.
So if I may, let me ask, if, for example, the best approach from my point of view would be, for example, to have major substantive changes listed as separate issues on the ballot for voters to approve or reject, so that the entire work of this commission is not put at risk for the, let's call it, non-substantive modernization of language and organization. So, for example, if we thought that the term of the mayor ought to be a separate question, hypothetically, if the council, I know they had recommendations at their prior meeting with you, council wanted a 4-year term and to be paid. If those issues were to be listed separately, when is the appropriate time to make that suggestion, and when does that decision get made?
That's made at the very last meeting where they accept the document. And very often, Mayor, you do try. I'll give you an example, and it sometimes doesn't work. Mayor Finch in Bridgeport had a really terrific reorganized charter back in 2012. It was the re-election of President Obama, and one of his priorities in that election, in that revision, was to alter the structure of the Board of Education to have mayoral appointments, a mayoral control argument that he and others in the state have advocated over the years. That was a separate. Tyler may have actually been working in Bridgeport at that time. It was a separate question. I recommended it be placed as a separate question because I knew it was going to be a very controversial issue. Because of the volume of opposition to that issue, it hurt just about everything else. I don't think anything from that charter passed. Some things were very close, but because of the overwhelming opposition to the restructuring of the Board of Education, everything went down. So what's really important is that if there is a controversial issue, and I've said this to our commission, I've said this to members of the council throughout this process, my recommendation is you have to make a political judgment. I don't live in Norwalk, and I don't know where all the bodies are buried and where all the potholes are. And so it's up to the politicians in Norwalk to decide what issues are of such political dynamism that it could impact on the let's say the procedural restructuring issues of the document that you kind of laid out that dichotomy. So I agree that those issues that are very that have potential peril politically should be separated. But I can't tell you what they would be. That would really be a local political judgment somebody would have to make. But
Right.
Yeah.
And will this commission make a recommendation about the presentation of the revision on the ballot to the voters, or is that left to the council?
I'll defer to the- yeah.
We have discussed that issue, Alex, throughout this process, and it's our intention to do that. We have
Okay,
not voted on it formally, but the discussion has gone in that direction.
so I know that the required public hearings of this commission have ended, but in lieu of the fact that it's hard to make a recommendation about the presentation on the ballot until the report is more finalized than it is now, will there be an opportunity, Patsy and Larry and Ed Steve, to make a recommendation about that at some point?
So one of the things the council has to do is they have a statutory public hearing near the end of their deliberations. And at that point, they will presumably during their deliberations, they will begin to develop their recommendations, if any, but they'll develop their recommendations. Then the public comes in and the public will have an opportunity to comment on the underlying document, which we're going to be presenting to them, plus the recommendations. And at that point, everybody will know what the universe looks like. We pretty much know what the universe of what we're presenting will be after tonight. It'll be pretty evident what is being proposed. But at that point, after they have gone through several weeks of deliberation, the public and other interest entities in Norwalk will have a better idea of what the council is thinking. And for example, right now, council compensation is not addressed in the charter, and unless something happens tonight, and I don't want to speak, I have no vote here. Unless something happens tonight, will probably not be in this proposal at this time. But if it comes up at the council side, then obviously that's an issue for the public to testify to at that time. And I think that would be the time where you could start to crystallize and make firm recommendations on how you think the questions should be broken down for the public. And one other point I want to make, because this is we're not going to be able to do a red line. When we publish this charter, it's heavily annotated. That's one thing we've done. We have annotated to the current numbering and system of the charter, but it's a totally different and restructured document. And so it's going to be almost impossible to redline, but by going through the document, the voters can know what is new and what sections have been significantly revised. And I also think we're going to have in the letter, and Tyler Fairborn, others on the commission working with me have developed kind of a list of what we think most of the new proposals are. And before we send this over to the council, I'm going to do one more run, and I'm going to ask all the commissioners to do another run to make sure if we've missed anything on that list, that we want to place it on the list so that people understand what the new items are that are substantively different. There's not a lot, but there are some things that are substantively different. And so I think that public hearing would be the opportunity for people to testify. And then the final point I want to make is that in addition to the publication of the document, and I think when we publish the document, we would probably include on it that list, because again, it's not going to be, and we're probably not going to have the annotations in the newspaper. They will be in the published version of the document that will be online. We will probably put a list of those substantive changes with the sections so that people can actually look at the sections as they're going through it. But the final point is the town clerk has a function under statute, under Title IX, to issue an explanatory text. And I will work, if asked, to work with Rick and with the council on developing a very detailed explanatory text. The town is permitted to publish it, It's not an advocacy document. It's an objective run through the document that will explain to the public what each section means and where there have been changes in each section. So there will be that explanation, but you're not going to be able to put a question for every little change that's in this document.
Yeah,
One
okay.
is- yeah.
Good. Alex, do you have any other questions?
No, just want to thank you. I mean, my point of this question was that since it's an awkward chronology of when to talk about presenting questions, when the questions themselves haven't been finalized, that I would hope that it's not said that when we testify at the council about what should be presented to voters, that you should have testified to the commission about that when it was really not possible to do so.
Yeah,
And
okay.
that was the purpose of
Well-
my inquiry tonight.
But are there any issues that you've observed so far that you want to address
Yes, I mean,
other than process? Other
yes.
than process, yeah.
Well, I am not in favor of the 4-year term for a mayor. And I'll be glad to explain my reasons, in an appropriate forum. I realize tonight is not a public hearing. But I think that kind of I think the general format of your work has been presented as an attempt to update and reorganize without huge substantive changes, a document that's been dormant for decades. It seems to me that the term of the mayor is a very big substantive change. And that's one I'm concerned in terms of the role of local democracy that I happen to support. So, and I've just started to read I've read your 3-page summary, and I've just started to read the whole document. And I must say it shows a lot of effort and work by this commission. So thank you for the chance to ask a question, Patsy.
Okay, you're welcome. All right. Is there anybody else present or on Zoom that wants to address the commission?
If anyone else would like to address the commission, please raise your hand electronically now. Yes, we have Diane Cece.
All right, Diane? Diane CC, please.
Yeah, one moment.
And who else? Is Diane available to,
Yeah,
Address
she
this.
should be coming over right now.
okay,
There we go. I don't
Right.
know why, but it takes more than a moment to hop in once you clear me. So I apologize for the
Okay.
delay there.
what do you got for us tonight?
I just want to be brief. First of all, I want to thank you for all the work, but especially for this 3-page recap, which I found especially helpful in just being able to look at what the changes were. And I still intend to spend some time going through the document as well so that I can make some comments at the council. And thank you for still taking comment tonight, because the 2 things that I wanted to point out are actually 3 things. I think I mentioned this in the last meeting that I, like, not unlike some other speakers, are also opposed to the 4-year mayoral term. And I'm surprised that it's actually still made it to the final cut at this point. And I am concerned about how the questions may relate on the ballot, given the last go around we had with that question. There are 2 other items too. I was also, early on, I was a proponent of increasing the police commission, the number of commissioners, for a whole host of good reasons. But then I also want to take a closer look at the role of the police commission and whether or not that is appropriate and if it needs to be expanded. Because I have found over the many months and years that most of their agendas have to do with approving tuition reimbursement, commendations, the request for retirement, things like that, and not necessarily substantive to the public interaction with the police department. So I think it's good that we expanded anyway from 3 members. But I also think that we need to take a closer look at exactly what the role of the commission is now and if it's appropriate and things should be added or taken out. And I don't think that it made it anywhere in here. I may have asked this last time, apologize if I did, but to consider a citizens review board in relationship to the police department. I thought that was something that we had asked the last go around as well, some of us, and just wanted to know what
We
was
we
on
did
with
not,
that.
we did not address that to this date, Diane.
Yeah.
Okay,
All right,
okay.
I think that's all I have for
Okay.
tonight.
okay, good, thanks. Thanks for your participation. So we have one other person waiting.
We have one other person, but they did not raise their hand, so I believe we can move on.
I just want to make sure, I don't want to leave them out if they're,
Okay.
you
Nicole, if you'd like to speak, address the commission, please raise your hand now.
okay.
Okay, you can unmute, Nicole. Thank you.
Is she with us?
She has not unmuted her microphone.
There she is. She's unmuted now, Larry.
What's that?
She's unmuted now.
Yeah, but we're not hearing. Nicole, can you try to mute and unmute again?
I wonder if she lowered her hand. Does that make a difference? I don't know.
Your hand still raised.
It shouldn't interfere with the muting.
I don't think so, but I just was trying to,
I hear you.
It's gone.
I lowered it, but her mic isn't working.
so she hears us, so clearly hears us.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Nicole, if you do hear us, would you turn your hand back on?
Yeah, she hears us.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Oh, I'm gonna try to promote her to panelist and see if that helps.
Okay.
All right, Nicole, I'm gonna promote you to panelist. Please accept. And we'll see if you can,
Okay, can you hear me now?
yes.
There she
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
Sorry, that really doesn't work. It takes a while. But anyway, hi, everybody. This is my first time being on your meeting, but I did send some questions over to Tyler. I'm not sure if he got a chance to present them to you. But since you asked me, I decided to come on anyway. But thank you, first of all, so much for your hard work, and thank you for the opportunity. So a few of my questions, I'm just going to read what I sent to Tyler, is that would we be able to, well, everybody already talked about the mayor's term. So I just wanted to know when that would be coming up also as well. Would that be a question, or can we word it, okay, in the proposed changes to say that this is a question that will be on the ballot, because the way it's written now, it seems like the change has already taken place.
No, we're recommending, and it would definitely be on the ballot, and it would not take, the recommendation would be to have it be effective in 2025, not 2023.
Right. But
Yes.
okay. And then my other question was, being that all the other commissions and committees are elected, is there a reason? I don't know. I'm new to all of this. So is there a reason why the planning and zoning commissioners are not elected as well?
Well,
That is-
all of them aren't elected. The Board of Education and the council are elected, but planning and zoning and other commissioners are not elected. They're the fire commission, the police commission, yeah, are not. They're appointed with the approval. Most of them recommended by the mayor to the council for council approval.
Okay. And the last change was, you guys had, some-
Including the Board of Estimate and Taxation. I don't know if you mentioned that.
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. And the last question was just that I know there was some discussion about the duty of police for the arrest without warrant. Just wanted to know if that could be added to the proposed changes. If it's been changed, I don't know. But I think it's a good idea if that could be noted as well, because it seems like that might be still in there. So I'm not sure.
Okay.
But just
I'm
that
gonna-
was it.
All right, I'm going to ask Steve to address that
Yeah,
for us.
that
please.
is still in there, but Benita, Commissioner Watford Raleigh has made it very clear of her intent to move at this meeting the elimination of that provision. I know that's the direction everybody was heading in, but I don't have a vote, so I did not eliminate it. I'll wait for the commission to take action on it tonight.
Okay, was just curious about that. Okay, I'm good. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right.
Okay, bye.
Okay, there's no one else present, either on Zoom or at City Hall that wishes to speak? We'll move into the agenda.
Yeah.
Steve, do you want to lend us through?
Yeah, how do we
The
want to do
process?
this? I mean, do we need to go through the whole document again, or do you want me to just go through the sections that do you want me to just highlight some of the highlights? Because there's a lot in the document I sent you the other day. You'll see the beginning that I've gone through and started to put definitions in. Let me run through it quickly. Do you want it on?
Yeah,
Everybody have
let's
something to
put
do?
it on and you've redlined it, so and yellow lined it. So I think we could quickly go through. That might be the most efficient way rather than to skip around.
All right. Do you see it in front of you? Is that it?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
It says budgeted entities. Do you see that? Okay, good. Let me fix the zoom and get it up a little higher. Whoops. So you'll see there's no, let's just float from the beginning, and I'll try
Right.
not to go too fast, get anybody dizzy. I made a few little changes, and if the people who worked on this are unhappy with the changes, we can change them back. I ended up using the term municipal government. We use city throughout the document, and I thought it didn't hurt to refer to Norwalk's municipal government as opposed to city government. We could call it city government. And actually, I think there's
yeah,
Norwalk
I
is in there
liked it.
twice.
I liked the change. Yeah, you got two Norwalks,
I got
right?
two Norwalks in there. I just noticed
Yeah.
that. My God.
Steve, what
Let me,
page is that on? Is that on page 7?
Right in the beginning. What's funny, it doesn't show up in the
Page 3.
page 3.
Page 3, because I had trouble last week paying up with pages and articles and stuff. So my mistake, my problem.
All right, I got that out in my next draft, so it's taken care of in my next. I've been going through this quite a bit since I sent it to you yesterday.
Okay.
So I got rid of that second Norwalk. I don't know how that ended up in there. Oh, no, it's no structure. No, it's
No,
it's in two
it's
different
good.
lines. Yeah, it's fine.
Right.
Okay. All right, good. The other change in here is I talked about governance, not intended to restructure. Well, maybe that's redundant. Norwalk's government structure or reform, maybe just take out the word restructure, reform Norwalk's governance structure. Unless you want to leave it the way it was before.
No, I think the reform should be, it covers. We're
Yeah.
not changing the governance structure, etc. So we didn't intend to do it. So I'll just take out the all restructure. It's a bit redundant.
Yep, I'm just, what are the
Yep.
major changes? I'm just going to I'm doing two documents at one time there. I got it. I'll fix it. Let me post it in. I'm sorry. At this stage, I've got to worry about what I'm doing. And this is, yeah. So-
On the elimination of the position of selectman and city treasurer, is that effective in 23 or 25?
That's effective at the end of the next term.
25.
So they'll be elected in
25, yeah.
2023.
I think, yeah,
So then,
it would be, I saw it in the other language, but I think it would be good to have that as above in the mayoral, that it would be effective in 25. Correct? Is that,
That's fine with me. What about the members?
Okay.
Yep, it
Yeah,
clarifies.
that's fine.
That's
Good.
fine.
Got it.
and let the record show that Angela is with us now, safely home.
I've been on for a while, actually.
Yes, thankfully off of Metro North.
Yeah, right? Okay,
Okay, and I think that's it. Whoops. Let me just see
Oops.
if there- anything else in there that was, no other substantive things, among them, city residents. I thought it should be the city residents
Yeah,
as opposed to among them.
correct. Right.
Unless this was like a Slim Pickens movie or something. But we'll just take that change. So I'm not gonna hit a lot of those little ones. I don't
Can I
think.
just
there are
throw
any-
some,
Yep.
Steve, can I just throw something out here?
Sorry. Yeah.
And this is just a commission, let me know your thoughts on it. We're getting a lot of, it seems like the main stumbling block that the public is having is with this 4-year term.
It is.
What is everybody's feeling
Yeah,
on,
can we wait till we get to that part?
we're just
Well,
talking,
well, okay, all right. Yeah, I'm sorry.
oh, no, we can if you want to wait till we get.
No,
to-
that's all right. That's all right. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I just was looking, I can wait, no.
Yeah,
Steve,
no, that's all
go
right.
through what
Let's
you've got,
go.
Steve, and we'll go over it. I have something on that when we get to it.
All right, so we'll wait till we get to that section.
Yep, yeah.
All right.
Okay.
So anybody else on the, not the preamble, but the opening statement? We're okay?
No,
There are
we're
no
good.
changes in this next section in Article 1, I don't think. There might be some shalls that I've fixed in the next version of it. Patsy and I had a long talk and reminded me I needed to do the shall must revisions, and I
yeah.
am. As we speak.
Interestingly
And I am-
enough, I don't know if you all reviewed the comments that came in the last few days, and there were so many comments about the gender issue. And
Yeah.
I think we pretty much covered it, except for the fact that it's in the district, the taxing districts sections.
I
which
caught one more
have
though,
that.
Patsy. I did catch one more in the
Yeah.
body.
Yeah. But
and-
everybody was focused on that. That
Yep.
was,
I
so
yeah,
they're
I caught
reading the details.
I caught one more. Yeah, and the ones that you still see in your version, I've now fixed in the taxing district. I was having problems trying to restructure that sentence without changing anything. It had to do with domiciles in the taxing districts and leaving your domicile. And every way I tried to write it was awkward, and I wanted to be careful about not changing the substance of it. And I finally worked it out. And so
Good.
all the gender neutrality will be in that section as well, as you will see in the final version of the document.
Well, I
Um,
just thought it was very interesting because the commission has been focused on that through the whole process. So from the day one, so.
Absolutely.
yeah,
Um,
okay.
I eliminated quotes. I had quotes in an earlier version. You'll see the
Oh,
beginning
here,
of
the
the
charter means.
yeah,
Yeah,
charter means not shall
Yes,
mean, but charter means, or
it's-
your charter means
Yeah.
the charter of the city.
Right.
Charter, Cleacher is a public official appointed by the mayor. And a capitalized term because it's a defined term. So those are changes. I'll put the article section in the version that goes to them. I wanted to ask your guidance and indulgence. I had come up with a definition for capital budget items. And what I did with the definitions, I wanted to make sure that each definition really meant something and was used throughout the entire document. Capital budget items really is only used in the budget section. So I was going to recommend that we just move this. There's no need to have it as a general glossary definition. So I was going to recommend that we just move it into that section, if that's okay with you.
Running the meeting. I went to the house. It's good.
Any thought on that? To move?
I thought it was good. So, clear.
No, but it's only used in the budget section. So I was thinking about moving the definition to the budget section. So it's not here.
Oh, I see.
It's 6 of one, half dozen the other, but it's not used throughout the document. And I thought that the glossary really were terms that are used throughout the entire document. It's up to you. I mean, it can stay here. It was just a thought.
Well, any comments from anyone?
I'll leave it.
Okay,
No big deal. That's fine. One less thing to do.
Steve,
Yes,
I still have a problem with number 16. That's one. of the
we'll get there in a minute.
yep,
Okay, not there.
Nope, we're at number 10
No.
right now.
Just
And
about.
again, I'm playing with getting rid of the shalls. So confirmation by the common council means an affirmative majority vote of the council of all mayoral appointees. So that's what that change is. I also took out, as you can see in that section, when I'm referring to a section of the charter, I don't think we have to say section 4.4B4 of Article 4 of this charter. It's a section of the charter. And I took out all reference to of this charter every time we have a internal charter reference. So you'll see that
Okay.
elimination in the document. Days is simply a defined term. I also added ordinances. I want it clear to everybody. It should be clear, but I think the charter document should be as clear as it can be that if something is defined in the charter, you can't change it by ordinance. And so if day means calendar days in the charter, that will be the common usage of the term days for all the laws of the city of Norwalk. And they can change it. They can say a business day. But the term day is defined one way. Members of the public can look to the charter and see what it means and understand what it means if there's an ordinance that has that term used. And that's the reason I added the term ordinances there. You'll see that in other places throughout the document. We're getting to 16. Division chiefs, another, just again, a minor change on that. And then 16 is elector.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's just not a definition to me. It's the meaning contained in the general statutes. If people don't know what the general statutes are, and regular people don't necessarily know that, I think it should have a definition. What is an elector?
Well, it's defined by state law. What we can do is we can, no, it's at the bottom. Well, you're not seeing it right now, but if you take a look at end note number 24, it describes what the definition is. An elector is any person, and this was in response to your earlier comment, so I did put it in. I was hoping I didn't miss it. It's any person possessing the qualifications prescribed by the Constitution, the state constitution, and duly admitted to and entitled to exercise the privileges of an elector in a town. So we can't change it, and I don't want to put the state definition in here. The state definition governs, but if it changes, then we have to change our charter, or our charter will be misleading. And so I do have it as an end note. And what I can do, with your permission, Patsy and I thought it was a better presentation to put the footnotes at the end of the document, because there were, and believe me, when I did this last revision, there were a couple of footnotes that were so dense that we only had 2 lines of text of the charter on the page.
on the page, yeah.
So we moved it to the end notes. But what I think I can do is I can put this as a comment of the commission, and I'll have all the comments as footnotes. And so somebody looking at the definition can just look to the bottom of the page and see that at the time that this charter was adopted,
Currently, yeah,
this
currently.
section governs, and they'll still have to look at the statute, because if the statute changes for some reason, that's still going to govern. And I think that's the only way to do it, Benita. In the
All
end.
right.
Hey, Stephen, I have a question. This is totally from a non-legal type person, but where it says elector has the meaning contained in the general statutes,
Mhm.
would it help to say as defined by state of Connecticut, meaning that it would be what it is today, and in the future, if it does change in Connecticut, that would still hold true?
Well, if you take a look at the definition of general statutes, which is 4 definitions below it, it
Mhm.
means the general statutes of the state of Connecticut is amended from time to time.
There you go. Okay.
So it's a defined term, and its definition is literally number 19. And
Okay.
So it's just below
So
it.
that covers it. If there's any changes,
Yeah, we'll follow.
it's saying that.
But I'll make sure the comment that includes the statute is on the page, even in the end note version of the document.
All right, I
All
just
right.
want people to know that that means
Yeah.
people who can vote, who
Yeah.
are registered voters.
I think that's a good
I
point.
just don't, elector by itself just has no meaning to me, but I want people to understand that, and it is within the body, it goes through the body a lot of times of the charter, and it means that people who are duly elected,
Yeah, I think it's a
duly
good point.
registered to vote.
I agree with you. I mean, this is a very sensitive national issue.
Yes.
And people, somehow we should be able to find a way to explain it a little clearer. So if we
Can we
combine.
say, in
if
other
we
words,
move-
a registered voter?
No, common, currently, well.
Yeah, but you don't have to be a registered voter to have access or try to understand this charter, right?
No, but you have to be an elector in the city. You have to
But-
be.
Can you say a registered voter as defined by the general statutes?
Well, the term
but-
registered voter is not defined by the general statutes. What I would say at
Elector
the end of the definition, in the common parlance, it is what is known as a registered voter.
That would be good.
That would be good. Yeah,
Okay.
something like that. Good.
Yeah.
That was important.
I'm just writing it down.
Oh, I thought we were in commercial break.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I have Elon Musk on the line. He wants to talk, but I told him.
No,
to wait.
tell them to go to Twitter. Send us the Twitter.
I'm sorry. Okay.
He's at the news conference for Ron DeSantis.
Yes, I know.
6:00.
Yeah.
Okay, guys,
All right,
let's
so
stay here.
Here's the next thing. I made a couple of changes in the definition, not substantive, of fourth and fifth taxing district. I comprise the city in its entirety. I've added the word taxing to the fifth taxing district in the next line. There was a typo. I had the fifth as one of the historic taxing districts. It's not, it's the sixth. So I caught that. And I put taxing district again in the last line on the fourth and fifth, because that's part of its title. And I think I made a change since then. Hold on, because Patsy and I talked about this. Oh no, I think I made a change. Patsy, we talked about this on Monday.
Mhm.
That some of the that currently do not impose, sorry. One of the districts does not, let's see. Let's see, there's provided services, residents.
Well, is governance function, is sewer getting the sewer?
Yeah, I think, here,
service?
hold on, let me just, give me a second here, let me look at the language, because I know I made a change, don't worry about what you see on the screen, I'll move this to my other screen so I can find it quickly. We were talking, there's one of them does not tax their people, and I thought you wanted me to explain that. Let me see if I can. So I have it, residents of the fourth.
We need to rework this.
I thought this was okay. This is
Yeah.
not, this is,
It is so complicated. The fourth and fifth are service districts. That's the difference. They provide the sewer and garbage collection and lights.
Can you just add that in?
Well, we've been dancing with this since the beginning.
At the end, but do provide
These two dishes.
sewer and lights.
So, To the fortunate are provided with sewer. Meanwhile, the residents of the do not have sewer service while these two districts.
I don't know.
Well,
else we
what,
can do.
they don't share the name with the first, second, third. They don't,
They're called taxing districts. They share the historic name, but they are not taxing districts. I don't know how else to say it. They don't serve any governance function and do not impose taxes.
So maybe the term taxing district shouldn't encompass all these. Maybe we should break it out. What is a tax?
I think we start messing with that. Be my guest. That should be another separate question then. I think we start, that's what they're called. That's how they've been listed for years. And I thought this paragraph described that they do something different than they're just a service district.
My only point is everybody in this commission is fairly
It's-
familiar and we can't define it.
yeah,
Rewrite it. Be my guest.
okay, all right, let's go. We have to come back to this. So let's move on for now.
I put a definition for operating budget in here. It was not defined. I thought it was a good term to
Yeah.
define as I was going through that. Public official. I wanted to make sure at the end of the definition of public official, I don't remember where this came from. These definitions pertain to the charter and ordinances, although are not intended to displace or replace any alternative definition as may be set forth in part 2 of this charter entitled the taxing districts. I wanted to make it clear that we were not trying to modify anything. In fact, I think the definitions simply apply. I don't think it does anything to the district, but I wanted to make it clear that by using that term, we're not intending to change anything in that part of the charter.
So Steve, are you
Well,
familiar?
it's not intended to displace, it does not displace. It does not, it's not intended, it just doesn't do it.
And does not displace or replace.
Yeah. You just added this today, right, Steve?
No, I gave you these documents 2 days ago. These are in the.
Okay, I
section we
missed
have.
that, and
Yeah.
I went through it all and somehow I missed that. Which surprises me.
Well, do not,
Oh, boy.
if you want to make a definitive statement, be my guest. I always put it in his hedge. That's why I did all or not intended. That's not our intention.
Can you go up to the beginning of the paragraph, please? Of the section 25.
I'm trying.
Okay. Okay.
It really doesn't.
So there was one thing that I saw that it had the remove the Board of Representatives, so you must have just removed that in this section.
I don't remember.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It must have been removed in an earlier version, so.
So
I think the last.
why don't we just eliminate these definitions?
All right.
It seems to confuse it.
Well, you're the one who wanted it. I'll take it out.
Well,
If you take it.
No, I'll take it out. I don't,
you take
I
out
didn't,
although,
I didn't think it was necessary, but
Angela, did you have an idea?
just,
Or was that Benita?
that's
Just
me.
Benita.
These definitions pertain to the charter and ordinances and are not intended to displace or replace.
Eh.
Because it's although sends a different,
that's okay. Charter and ordinances are not intended
And are not intended. These
and are not intended to replace or displace or replace any alternative definition. Yeah, that's fine.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, take out the although.
Straightforward.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, Angela,
And-
what,
Yeah, no, I was agreeing with Benita. Like, I think although the word although sort of throws things off. You should just put and
And
are not intended. Yeah, they're just not. Yeah.
okay, all
Yeah.
right, let's go with that.
Yep.
Got it.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Let me just see one thing. Hold on one second here. Right. The next change is just capitalizing. These are all capitalizations. Referendum simply describes the process of overriding the actions of the mayor and council. And again, there's a reference to a state statute that defines referendum. Resolution. Oh, I added the sentence at the end because a lot of boards and commissions can adopt resolutions too, and they're also adopted in a similar manner by boards and commissions, including the commissioners of the various taxing districts. So I wanted to make sure everybody knew that they were included in that term. And the term resolution is important because a lot of state laws require municipalities to accept things and change things by resolution as opposed to by ordinance or order. And so I thought that it should be utilized for all boards and commissions as well as the council. So that's the reason I added that sentence at the end of 32.
Yeah,
Here's a
36, I thought was very helpful.
Oh, good. And this is the one where I made a change based on our conversation. Let's take a look. I'll put it up on the board. This one. You were concerned when we talked on Monday about the issue of do I have it here? Oh yeah, no, it's in here. I actually put it in here. The time of the adoption. They're not at the time of the adoption, they are not imposing a separate tax. So it simply says, while they're not doing it, it means they're just not doing it now. They do have the ability to impose a separate tax. That was a result of my conversation with Patsy the other day. So I made that change. And I put the terms in from my conversation with Frank Murphy. If you look at the cases, and again, I'm sorry to be a lawyer, but again, we're trying to tell the public what taxing districts are. They're called by the courts quasi-municipal corporations, bodies politic, and political subdivisions of the state. So is the city of Norwalk. And it simply describes them as bona fide statutory entities. And they're just not figments of somebody's imagination. No one created them overnight. The General Assembly created these entities. So,
And I believe several of them prior to 1913, obviously.
yeah, and the footnotes cite the cases where they're called those things. So
Okay,
those-
great. That's very helpful.
Good. All right, let's see what else there is. I don't think town clerk is a position that Rick McQuaid holds in perpetuity. Is that the definition?
No, he's elected.
I'm just joking.
I know, and
Thanks,
so
Steve, for
am I.
entertaining.
And so am I.
Vacancy. Oh, Patsy, I added that vacancies apply to taxing districts. They do have a lot of stuff on vacancy. And so I thought it should be clear that it covers them as well. The vacancy is a vacant, is whatever, whenever official is unable to complete the current term of office, blah, 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 blah. So, so I did include them in there to make it clear that that's covered in that section of the charter. I don't think that's a substantive change. I'm still keeping this in here because shall will be used in some places. Some places it's hard to change it without changing complete paragraphs or sentences. But you're going to see a lot of musts and requireds in the charter. When you get the last version before it goes over to the council. I don't think there are any substantive changes. Well, here's a shall. So the council is required to enact, not shall. And they have an affirmative obligation to update and amend the ordinance. Recusal, again, the town clerk must refrain, or the public official must refrain from voting, participating on matters which constitute a violation of the code of ethics or otherwise creates a conflict of interest. So I had to make a change in that sentence to make it clear. The actual language in that section was not clear. So this does clarify it, I believe.
Okay.
Again, another shall. Whoops. Sorry. Oy. Okay. City officials are required to treat members. So we'll see those kinds of changes throughout the document. Must adopt a manual. I'm not going to stop at every one of them. I'm still working on to have conformity in the way I describe 2/3 votes and whatnot. I think a lot of this we will deal with when we get to the council, because some of them are really council decisions in terms of, what should be the standard. And they've not really weighed in before us. I've had some discussions with members, but I think when we get it over there, that will probably be one of the things that we do when it goes to the councils to try to fix them. But in the meantime, I want to make sure that I use similar language when I'm describing a 2/3 vote of the entire membership. I added, in most cases, affirmative vote of 2/3, because otherwise adopted by 2/3. I guess that's an affirmative vote, but it's used in some places and not in others. I thought it was good terminology to say it's an affirmation and it requires 2/3 of the entire membership.
Okay.
All right. Again, no changes there in all circumstances, not circumstance. Again, minor fix. So the commissions must keep a complete and accurate record and are required to maintain custody of its correspondence, as opposed to shall have custody. So are required to maintain custody. That all these are public records, must be available for public inspection. The term open for public inspection I thought was awfully vague. I don't know if you'll prefer open, I'm happy to leave it, but I thought available for public inspection was clearer.
Yeah, we agree.
Thank you too.
And here's another open I didn't catch. Well, open meetings, open to public meetings. The meetings are open to the public. That's okay. Required to cooperate. Again, getting rid of those shalls. In the last draft, you will see more of that. Whoops. Each public official must assist the boards.
There was, you skipped over requirements for diversity, and I'm just pointing this out, that this has come up in several issues that we don't do this in the city, but here's an indication of the intent to do that.
Yeah.
Very clearly stated.
Yeah, and it's something that doesn't exist in the current charter.
Yeah.
So is that on our
So-
list? Yeah, is that?
No, I don't think so.
So
Oh, yeah.
2-6?
I don't think it is.
Yeah, it is here. Open meetings, public records, cooperation and diversity on boards and commissions. So
Okay,
maybe we should break it down. No, it's there. It's
it's,
in 5D of
okay,
the,
I just wanted to remind the commission that it was here. Yeah.
all right, then we go to the elections section. So I'm sure Rick will speak in a minute on a substantive issue here. Again, mainly definitional changes, the shalls to musts. And when you look at it the final time, I will hopefully by Friday or the latest Monday get out to you my markup of the final internal changes, the shalls and musts and all that stuff I'm trying to clean up, and I'm trying to get internal references done. And I will ask all of you to, again, we'll divide this up. If you could take on the same assignments you did, to take one last look at this so that we, you know, we get your comments and we get this thing taken care of. Here's another of this charter gone. And now we are getting to, we're not quite at the 4-year term. Here's the sunset provisions. Oh, let me explain something. Patsy kept pushing me on this issue, and I pushed back, and she was right and I was wrong on the use of the term sunset. As I was going to try to define it at Patsy's request, I have been using the term in an awkward way. A true sunset. This is a true sunset. We have a date that the treasurer's position and the selectman position goes away. That's a sunset. It's locked in. That day, the sun will set, will never rise again. That provision is out of the charter. The other provisions are transitional provisions. And you'll see I think it's in this version, I made the change to take those sections, like, you know, we have the controller, the finance functions, the public works functions. We have all those things at the back of the charter. I was calling them sunset provisions. They're not really sunsets because it requires a legislative action, adoption of an ordinance, an opinion of the Corporation Council that the ordinance complies with the intent of the charter. And so they are transitional provisions. They have the same effect. They will go away, but to eliminate the confusion, I eliminated the term sunset in dealing with those matters. So I wanted to point out that Patsy's pushing me on the edits was a useful thing, and I hope that that resolves the discrepancy or any ambiguity. So I fixed that. That's why we do these things in multiple drafts, multiple iterations. So I wanted to explain that. Here we are, the terms of office, Mr. Clerk.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, was it Michael? Wasn't it Michael?
Or maybe it's both of them. Yeah.
Oh.
I thought Rick brought it up earlier.
Rick brought it up.
Oh, I thought it was Michael. I'm sorry. So Rick?
Yeah, okay. I think, you know, in talking about the charter coming to its close as far as our work, and it's going on to the council, you know, the biggest question out there and the biggest concern of everybody out there right now is the 4-year term for mayor. One of the things that, you know, I'd like to propose to everybody tonight and just get some feeling on it is that we move the 4-year term to 2027. And hear me out why I'm going that route. We've already said that we would like to see another charter or require a charter revision to meet again within 2 years. And I think that would be the time that they should take up the terms of the council people in terms of, you know, will we have elected boards and commissions or whatever ones they pick. But I think right now, if we push that out to 2027, I think it will allow people to take a look at all the work that we have done up to now and have another bite at the apple of that with the next charter commission. I hate to see this thing crash and burn since we've been working so hard on it just because of the 4-year mayor term. I really do. So I thought if we pushed it out to 2027, most of the people that are in office now or are affected by the offices now may be there, may not be there. The mayor may be there. I believe that it may change, but it's just a suggestion to see if we can get this.
By pushing it out to 2027, what does that mean? Does it mean that the public will know? Do we put it in something so they
Well, we'll
know
put it
that
in-
we're not considering it until
The
2027?
question would it, well, I'd have to run that by Steve. Steve, would that go as, the question would state that the 4-year term would take effect 2027? Or,
Well, what we would have to do is we would have to have a transition provision. The way it's written right now is that the elected, with the exception of the mayor, everybody else is a 2-year term.
right,
and the mayor has a 4-year term, starting in, after the election of 2027, so it'll be 2026. So you would have to, change that to 2025. And I think we need to make it clear that the mayor, we don't have to put the mayor in here for 2023 because the election will have passed.
Right.
We will have to put him in here for a 2-year term for the 2025 election.
Right.
That's where it comes out. That's where I'm confused. Yeah. So if we were to take Rick's proposal, we would have to add a proviso that in D1, the mayor will have a term of 2 years following the 2025 election, and in D2, the mayor will have a 4-year term following the election of 2027. That's the way it would work.
Okay, so are there other comments from other commissioners?
I have a comment that's not exactly with that, but it's in relation to that.
Okay.
And I got 5 calls last week while I was in New Hampshire. And the comments were made that they had seen what we're doing, and everything came to the terms for the mayor. And the former mayor made a comment tonight about having this as an additional item on the ballot to vote for, separate from this. All 5 calls suggested that same thing, to move that into a different issue and not to keep it within this, because the comment was made to me, if it stays within this document will be voted down.
Okay, anybody else?
Yeah, Patsy, I had a couple thoughts on this. Sorry, it's Tyler.
Right.
Made it home from our rain out. So I wanted to first just quickly address one thing, because Diane CC asked about this in the Q&A box, and I've seen some other people posting this online. To answer Diane's question, and I don't speak for the entire commission, I'm speaking personally, I have not been lobbied by the current mayor, by former mayors, by potential mayors. I don't know that anyone's announced for 2025 to do a 4-year term. When we originally came up with this, it was a kind of best practice thing. To me, it's not a dramatic restructuring of Norwalk's government. It's not a consolidation of power, because there's nothing being consolidated. It's the same office with the same powers, and everyone else has the same powers. So it's not a power grab by any one person. I personally haven't spoken to anyone who's been lobbying for it. I've been working in municipal government for close to 15 years. I've worked for 4-year mayors. I've worked for 2-year selectmen. I've worked for town managers, whatever. To me, it's a 4-year mayoral term. Has a bunch of benefits. Having a 2-year council term with that, to me, serves as a check. That said, if people don't want this, it will not hurt my feelings to get rid of it and leave it as it is. My concern, and I like Rick's direction on this. My concern is that if we're gonna bump it out, I would just say take it off, right? Just get it out of this go around, and don't even have it in there. That the people who are going to be upset about it, if people don't want it in 25, they're not going to want it in 27. So take it out, and then maybe we put some kind of recommendation or we put it in a transmittal letter when we're asking the council to revisit this in a couple of years. But I don't know. I don't know that we satisfy any of the people who are upset about a 4-year term by bumping it out to 27. So I would just say we take it out and we leave it at 2 years. And, maybe if we're going to ask the council to revisit this in the near future, maybe we have them look at it then, along with other things, along with other elected boards or commissions or positions or council terms or whatever. But I worry. I share wholeheartedly Rick's concern that this thing will suffer. All this good work will suffer because people are upset about the 4-year term. So if we're not going to do it, then let's just take it out.
Okay. I'd like to speak to this also. I have had the opposite response from people in favor of the 4-year term, and also in favor of a 4-year term for the council. That was a mix, some for and some against, but it was, I thought we discussed this at length, and I think our minutes will substantiate that our intention was to have this to be a separate item, separate, so that it could be distinct and people could vote that up and down and not the whole charter. So I believe we were very clear on that. And I too am looking at this from a business and governance position rather than a political decision, in the importance of having our leadership be able to undertake projects that the city needs within a 4-year period of time rather than 2 years. It's just sort of impractical. So I'm not in favor of really eliminating it. I think we need to rediscuss, can we split this out as a separate item, which I thought we were doing initially, and let it stand alone, and the rest of the charter that we're recommending other things be, you know, in a whole. Of course, the council has that option to make these changes too. But as I recall, in our first few meetings, there were several people in favor, very much in favor of the 4-year. So I think we need to have a full discussion here and not just quickly make a decision.
Patsy, can I just ask a question or make a comment?
Sure.
No, and maybe you can help Carl with the people that have talked to you, but there's not been anybody who says they don't want a 4-year term who gives a reason why. I haven't heard any reasons. What are the reasons why that people don't want a 4-year term?
I can answer that from my standpoint.
Okay, it would be great.
And I agree with everything Patsy just said, and I think that's exactly how we did approach it, and I will lower my hand now. And Rick, you may have gotten this, that's fine. You may have gotten the same thing. The calls I got were political. Totally and completely political, and it's because of the minority party not having any leadership. Not their own leadership, but elected leadership. So their feeling is that, and I got into one rather heated discussion with one gentleman saying that's because you don't believe you can win. That ended abruptly. But that's what it's about.
Okay.
I mean, while we want to say it's not political, at least from the people that I dealt with, and it's just felt like it is political. And they feel exactly that. Current leadership, council and mayoral, particularly mayoral, gets in 4 years, that's another 4 years, it's 4 years before, quote unquote, we have a shot at it. And it's like, you've had shots before, you haven't done anything. So anyway, it is political.
Okay.
But I agree with everything that Patsy said is the reason we looked at this, and she's right, we did deliberate this at length, that it really is designed more from a business standpoint and an execution standpoint to get things done. If you'll remember, when we really first talked about this, we were doing 4 and 4, 4 for council, 4 for mayor. And then I think it was titled one of the 2 years for the councils, and made sense, but we left the 4 in for the mayor. My concern, and it was delivered very clearly, as I mentioned before, is that if that stays in this as a bundled vote, and I think Patsy, you addressed that just now in your conversation,
Right.
that
Standalone.
it has to be a standalone, in my opinion, and from what I've heard, because the people that I talk to will make every effort they can. In fact, they close their conversation. I'd hate to see all y'all's hard work go down to this issue, because it will.
Can it separate? Is it possible to be able to separate it, even if we put it in?
The charter?
Well, no, if we put it into a separate vote.
Yeah.
All right, Steve, can you answer that, please?
Yeah, well, it's going to be in the document, in the body of the document, but the
No,
issue is whether it will be a separate question. Yes, but that's not for the commission to decide, that's for the council to decide.
I
We
meant
can
in the body of
recommend,
the
we
vote.
can recommend based on testimony before this body, that if they approve the 4-year term, that they include it in a separate question.
In that case, yeah, no, in that
We
case,
can't mandate that they do that.
yeah, in that case, I'm just concerned that that issue will stain all the work that we've done. I think people won't be able to separate it easily if it's in the charter and then the council has to decide whether or not it goes into an up and down standalone vote. My preference would be for it not to be in the draft charter, and then it can be decided separately. That way, we're not tainting or have a perception of taint on the rest of the charter. It's an important nuance.
And my question was basically, can we separate, when we do separate it, can it be separated in the minds of the voters?
That's a great point, and that's one of my concerns. And we have been clear. We've been clear about this from the beginning, that it would be a separate item, that you would be able to vote for all the important and necessary revisions we're suggesting to the charter, and then on a separate line, you'd be able to vote for the mayoral term. My concern is that the people who are opposed to the 4-year term will make it their mission to tank the entire thing because they're upset about the 4-year term. The comments and the vitriol I've seen about the 4-year term seem to be tied directly to, get it right or don't do it at all. Vote no on the charter. Let me dig up my old vote no charter signs, right? So it's not,
Yeah.
We've made it clear that it's a separate thing, but I don't know that satisfies the people who don't want it. And I don't know if those people
Yeah.
are
I agree with you, Tyler.
willing to kind of see the nuance in it. I don't know how much you capitulate to those people, but you don't want to see the whole thing go down because of this.
Yeah.
Right. I hear you, and I would agree, but I think it's incumbent upon us to talk to those that we know that have said what they said and say, okay, need your help to make sure that everybody understands who's going to go vote, and you pretty well know who those people are, that they understand that these are two different issues. So don't cloud it, or we'll come to your meetings and uncloud it so that doesn't happen. I mean, there's some communication that's you're absolutely right, Tyler. But I think a lot of that's incumbent upon us to help deliver that communication.
One thing.
And let me add, it's incumbent upon us to do what we feel is important for the future of the city of Norwalk. If we as individual people, commissioners, feel that a 4-year term is not a good idea, then you should vote against it. But if you feel that it is, to not go forward with it because 5 people have talked to you, and it might be the same 5 people that talked to both Rick and Carl, we are not standing up for the requirements that we have said that we were intending to do, and that was to improve the governance and the process of our governing body here in Norwalk. So that's the issue.
All right, Patsy, I just want to clear one thing. I have comments from both sides.
Okay.
Because in my office, like on everything else, they come from both sides to tell me the stories. In this case here, I'm looking back at 2016, and there weren't a whole lot of signs out there saying vote yes on a charter. What happens is when the vote no, as Carl says, or Tyler has also said, when it's a vote no out there on the 4-year term, it affects, and you can look at the numbers, it affects the other questions on the ballot.
Yeah, I understand that.
And it was a separate question. It was a separate question then too.
I'm for having it as a separate question like we did in 16. And I think maybe, I guess we're going to do a good job, I guess, advertising or getting it out to the public, because like to take it out of the charter, make it a separate question, but seeing a group like got ahead and they really went with the no sign, out there and they basically said no to basically the revisions, the charter revisions. And that question was separate and everything, but I think 3 out of the 4 questions were voted down
Yes.
in 16.
So
Yeah.
this is Benita's point, that it's difficult for them to separate the two, even though we did our best effort to do that. So, yeah.
I mean,
Okay,
part of it
so-
is a whole effort to get out the vote, and it just depends on, I think, whoever is getting out the vote, to be clear and to be persistent with what we're trying to accomplish.
Mhm.
So, I don't know.
But
I
if
agree.
the
Go ahead.
if a certain group gets out there, I hate to say it like this, it could be like 2016. They just got a push out there and they just went with it. They were everywhere.
Mm,
Signs, Facebook, I guess Twitter.
right, what do you, how do you want to handle this? You want to vote on this, or what do you want to do?
Well, my opinion is we would stay with the 4, but we got to make it perfectly clear that it's a separate vote for that and a separate vote for the charter.
Okay. Okay, anybody else want to articulate their position clearly?
I'm gonna go with what I proposed of making it for 2027 as a 4-year term.
Okay,
Would that still make it on the ballot? Would that be?
It could be a question this year, yeah.
it'd still be-
So we
Okay,
could separate the 2.
Okay,
Okay, then I would amend my comments and side with you. I have no problem with pushing it out to 2027.
Okay.
But what you can do is you can propose a provision for 2027. Your recommendation for a separate ballot is still up to the council.
right,
Correct.
right.
All right.
Yep. I'm aligned with that view.
Is there a second for, Patsy should be asking for a second for Rick's?
Rick's,
motion?
Second,
okay. Okay, all those in favor?
For the record, who was it seconded? Is that Michael?
Michael
Witherspoon.
Witherspoon,
Okay,
yes,
good.
who was it?
Michael Witherspoon.
okay. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
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 Opposed? I'm opposed, and Tyler is opposed.
No, I'm sorry.
I
Late
don't know.
I'm sorry, what, Tyler?
I was a late aye.
Oh, okay, all right.
All right, Tyler.
Okay, so the motion as presented has passed.
6-1.
Okay, let's move on.
All right, so just for clarity, so the mayoral, a 4-year term is still in here, but it will commence in January of 2028 following the 2027 election. And you're recommending in the transmittal letter, we'll make it very clear that the commission recommends a separate question. on this.
Separate.
Yes,
Correct.
yes,
Good. All
okay.
right. Let's, we're gonna have to move, I'll try to move it as quickly, but there are some substantive things that we do
Okay,
need
let's
to discuss.
go.
Rock on.
Yes. I don't want to get anybody sick. Obviously more changes. I won't stop until I see something substantive unless somebody has. Oh, here, I did make a change. Patsy had requested this and actually somebody else had requested this. One, I'm making clear that the district boundaries are the common council district boundaries. Now, those district boundaries also affect the Board of Ed, but it's the common council districts. I also make it clear that this is required by law. This is not something that some highfalutin idea that the commission came up with, that we're required by law to do this. That's why it's in the charter. So I want to make that clear. Those are not substantive changes, but they do clarify the section.
That was a point you made when the school board was here.
Yes.
Yes, yeah,
Okay. No changes here, just capitalizing the taxing district defined term. I'm using the word posting instead of publication. In the term public notice, we do talk about publication, but I thought by using publication in the body of the document, it implied that we're putting everything in a newspaper. I know that that's not what the term means from a grammatical or dictionary perspective, but I thought it was that the term publication is used in public notice, but I thought for reading purposes, people would understand what a posting is, posting of a public notice. That's why we have the defined term, because it covers all this stuff. Again, these are mainly capitalizations. I threw the word authority in a lot of places in here because I think authority implies legal authority. Power is different than authority. It's
Yeah.
used interchangeably, but it's a different concept. And I thought that there were places where I thought authority needed to be stated clearly.
Yeah, I think that's very helpful.
Thank
Yep.
you.
Yeah.
Again, it's there again. You'll see these are requireds and musts. Some internal reference changes. Absence defined. I don't think there are any substantive things here for a while.
Sorry.
Public notice, content, I use the term, it's a defined term, so through public notice in the contents of the notice for an expulsion hearing. Again, I'm still working on the uniform language for 2/3. You do not see it here. It's one of the things I'm going to be doing. There was a typo. Oh no, not typo. Appointing authority is a defined term. That's why it's capitalized. I thought I had getting all my charters mixed up. In my other city, I put housing authority instead of housing commission in one place. So I'm thinking Stanford, and that was not the case. Again, no. Again, this is where I caught another him, her. I think it's the last, I hope the last of the him, hers here. And so I made that change, caught that. I also put a provision in here that at the request of the affected employee or officer, the hearing shall be held in executive session unless not permitted by law. There may be requirements for them to be public. I don't think that's necessarily the case in most cases, but I just wanted to make that clear in the document. And this was a typo. Effective of this section is effective this section. Sorry, I'm going through quickly because I want to see if there's any. I don't think I have any substantive things for a while, but I just want to give you.
The mayor may preside.
Yeah, well, I mean, you want to keep shall?
Well, I mean, yeah, why would you change it? Because, you know, you
He may
have to
not-
have
he may-
a process.
Because the mayor may not be there. And that's why does the mayor,
But in another section there, you define that he would appoint, the mayor would appoint designate, I think is the word used, designate. And it's the president of the council.
I thought this was more, let's see here, 4-2.
Does he always show up?
Hey, council.
Well, we'll leave shall. I don't care. I thought it was clearer because the mayor has the option not, but because if we're making shall that it's mandatory.
I see what you're saying,
It
yeah.
takes away the discretion. And we do have those other provisions in there, but I thought this was a little more accurate as I was going through my shall, must, may.
Yeah.
Change. That's
Well,
why.
what does everybody else think? They
I
like
think
May?
I think
Okay,
I think May.
all right, let's
It's the
go.
mayor's
May.
discretion. All
May it is.
right. That's the only reason I did that, not taking anything
Yeah,
away.
no, I understand. Yeah.
Here's a big change I made. We have a historic provision here, 136. Let me just make sure that yeah, 133. Yeah, this was a language that goes back to the current charter. We dealt with this issue in section 3-6B and 3-7. So this was a major catch by me as I was editing the document that kind of repeated a standard, but we now have a standard in 3-6B and 3-7. So I eliminated the language. So that's the reason for that. it looks substantive, but it simply was repeating. And I didn't want to have to go through and repeat the language identically. So I thought it was just easier. And we could take the whole section out, frankly. But I didn't think it hurt to have it in this section, but we deal with this in Article 3. So that's the reason for all that cross out.
Yeah.
It's not eliminating the provision. The provision is dealt with in that other section. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
I just wanted to explain it. It looks like a big deal. Not the mayor and the council is required. No, the mayor and the council are required. But I'm glad I looked at that one more time. That's first meeting of the council. Hold on.
So when you get to public meetings, is there a clause that deals with executive session?
It's defined in public meetings. In the defined term, it deals with.
The executives?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, because they had one this week, which brings it to mind.
What about, where are we?
We're on E.
4-3.
For you and I, the top of page
D.
28.
Okay, but
Page.
what about under quorum? Is that correct? Number 1, A1, a majority of the members is required, or a majority of the members are required to?
The majority is single, right?
Yeah, so is works there.
Okay.
The mayor and the council are plural. And that's why is doesn't work there. Thank you for the catch. Again, musts and open to the public, must be available to the public for public inspection. Clarified all that. Whoops.
Oh, wait a minute. Okay. All right.
Necessary required. Again, a lot of these of this charter. I don't think there's any other.
Did we, wait, before you go on, when you listed, are these the appointments by the mayor? You're going so fast, I'm not sure. Did we confirm whether or not the comptroller was appointed by the mayor?
We'll get to the controller in a bit. Yes, the controller is in the charter. I thought it was not, but it was. It was actually in the document.
Okay,
I think. Oh, so I did put, you'll see this in a second. And I'm calling them historical powers. Didn't make any changes in 1 or 2, but 3 and 4, you may recognize. Patsy, these were in the back of the document. I had those
Right.
historical provisions.
right.
Mhm.
Patsy thought that these provisions were still current and active, and so I moved them into a historical provisions section in the body of the Common Council powers. So when they look at it, they can make a decision, but I moved them from the back to the front, and if they we'll debate it when it gets over there. But I just want to explain why all that new stuff, which is not new, is there. These were in the section.
In the district section, right?
It wasn't the district section. We have that other section, historical.
Right,
The things I used to call sunsets that are now
Yeah.
transition. Okay.
Right.
So I moved them back in. That's why those are
Red line.
there. Red line, yes, completely redlined. And whoops. Okay. So I changed a little bit of the way I expressed what the Corporation Council does. It was written in the negative. I flipped it into the positive with your permission. I think that when there's a reorganization, and this is also true with boards and commission mergers and things like that, and eliminations of those transition provisions, the Corp Council has to verify that the functional requirements of the charter will be maintained in the reorganization plan. So if the reorganization plan says that you need to have a public works function, and you reorganize the public works department into an infrastructure function and it doesn't include public works, the Corporation Council is obliged to say the charter requires the function. You could eliminate the department, you can eliminate the director, but the function needs to be clearly articulated in the ordinance that is creating the merger or reorganization. And I thought the way I expressed it now is better than the way I had framed it earlier. Now, keep in mind, Public Works is a function of the charter, even though we're moving all those specific elements of the job of the Public Work Director to the transition provisions. It is still clearly stated in the charter, and you can't change that. So the Corp Council has to rule that those functions are being served in the reorganization. I think it states it a little better than the way I had it. When you're doing your final review, send your cards and letters in and let me know whether you agree or disagree on that. I just wanted to explain it though.
PO box, I'm not here.
Yeah. So no, I don't have that luxury. This is a provision, we've talked about this, Patsy, I think you were part of some of the discussions. These additional authorities, no one's quite sure. So maybe when we get to the council, they'll tell us we don't have any of these things and we'll get rid of them. But one of the standards here is that any appointments that are the charter is silent on, the council gets to make. Not if they're not otherwise conferred upon the mayor, and they must be made by a plurality of votes passed in the council, and the mayor only having a vote in case of a tie. If we want to change it, we can change it. I think there's a bigger discussion that the council is going to have is, do they do this? Is this something that exists? And if it's something that exists, they can recommend back to us that they want to have a majority vote, a 2/3 vote, whatever they want to do. I mean,
But why do you use the word plurality?
I'm not using it. It's in the current charter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I didn't
All
change. I
So
actually.
is that majority? Does that mean?
Plurality
majority?
is he or she who gets the most votes. So let's say they're
Okay.
appointing somebody to a board or commission, and there's multiple candidates.
Right.
And no one gets a majority, but the
Okay,
person who
all
gets
right.
the highest number of votes.
Okay.
We've elected governors on a plurality, not a majority.
We don't define that term though in our definitions.
No, because it's only used in this one place. And,
Yeah, right,
and,
right.
so
Okay, that's why I'm just pointing it
Yeah.
out so
No,
that we're aware of it.
and that's why I had it highlighted.
Yeah.
I'll take the highlight off, but when we go before them, I will say this is an area that we didn't touch because it wasn't clear what it was. And you're the council, what do you do? Is this something you do? And if it's not, they should recommend that we take it out. This is the council salary, the compensation, the $600 compensation, so it stays in there. This is mainly, obviously, the public notice definitions, how they're used in the body, and some shalls and musts. Mayoral action. Again, musts and days capitalized. Whoops. Again, I'm going to fix again, this is now says not less than 2/3. I mean, I'm going to do one more run. When you see the document again, I will have a common definition, a common use that we go through and use in that section. And this is audits, nothing changed there. Referendum, no changes. I did take out the last sentence because Benita had requested that we define it, and it's now a defined term in the front. So I took the sentence out that it's defined in section 9-1N of the general statutes. It was repetitive, so I eliminated the sentence. I hope you don't mind. I consider those Scrivener's edits when we have a defined term. That's why but I'm showing them to you. Now, defined terms, capital budget, operating budget. This is where I really realized that we didn't define the operating budget when we got to the referendum section. And I said, oh, capital budget, but operating is lowercase and we don't have a definition. That's how that triggered that change. And I think that's it there. And we have internal references. You'll see this in the, I'm not done with the internal changes in the taxing districts, but they have references to paragraphs. I'm changing it to sections so that there's consistency in the document that these are sections of the charter, not paragraphs of the charter. They're used alternatively. And I just think we should have one term that describes what one of these sections is. It's a paragraph or a section, but I chose sections with the section mark. If you'd like to have it spelled out, I'll change it. Again, mainly capitalizations here. Sorry, I'm hoping I'm not putting anybody to sleep. If you're having a problem, call
No,
me.
my back is having a problem.
Oh, I'm sorry. If you can call me late at night, I'll put you to sleep, talk about the charter. Now we're in the mayor's section. Not a lot of changes in the mayor's section. The majority of the vote of the council is a defined term. Okay, no. Again, I took out the references to of this charter. Those are my major changes here. Okay, and here I'm inviting criticism or a counter statement. I did not change. I put the term shall here. Maybe I've changed it a little bit, but I thought the mayor needs to have a chief of staff. If the chief of staff is a position that we're saying should be funded, then I think in my latest version I say must appoint a chief of staff. We had may appoint, but we also had it with sufficient funds to be appropriated in the operating budget. So I don't know what your thoughts are on that issue. And I say or equivalent position to a chief of staff. If he doesn't want to call the person chief of staff, the mayor has that privilege, but
I don't think it's an issue. Does
All right.
anyone else think it's an issue?
No,
I just raised it because it was a slight change in the way I approached it. So
Yeah,
I didn't want you to think I was slipping something in here.
I think it's fine.
Okay, good.
Okay,
Thank you.
good.
Well, that's it on the mayor changes. I don't think there are any changes. You'll see changes in this section on, not in this version. I've gone on beyond this with the musts and the shalls. I have no idea what this section is. We've talked about it. I've asked other people about this. Is under the registrar of voters. Compensation. Now, I get the first.
Oh, that
paragraph.
goes back to 1913.
Yeah, and I didn't know whether we should, do we keep it? Do we get rid of it? No one was
think-
able to tell me anything on this.
It seems to me it should be sunsetted.
Well,
Because
I
they're
had that
paid,
last week.
they're paid by the hour anyway.
so
We
take this
don't
out.
have register, we don't have separate.
All right,
Versus-
Take it out.
Fee schedule.
Rick, where is Rick with us?
Yeah, I'm right here.
Yeah, we don't have separate registrars.
I will,
No.
all right,
No, what I'm saying is there's a fee schedule for poll workers and all those other ones that are there. So that's an outdated thing from the
then I'll
beginning.
take that last
Yeah.
clause out.
Yes.
Is
Yes,
that, is there a consensus on that?
Yes,
yes,
Yes.
yes.
Unanimous consensus. That's about as consensual as we will get. All right, thank you.
Stephen, just, can you stop for 1 sec?
Yes, sir.
I don't know if it's a big deal or not, but this happened last week also. So on page 45, there's stuff on that page, and then you turn the page over, which would be page 46, it's completely blank.
Yeah,
Yeah, mine too.
Well,
but there are other places where there were more than
so
one
there's blank
blank
pages.
page.
Is it before,
You know what? The
is it
con-
before you get to a new chapter, a new article? That's why it would be blank.
Yes, sir, it is.
actually,
I will put in the final version, this page intentionally left blank. I will make sure that's in there. I didn't do that.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you for pointing it out.
44, the information.
Yeah, but it really does, it really
Yeah.
does. go
It really does
before
end.
it goes to a new section.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tried to do that. I will put the intentionally left blank comment on those pages. So the charter prints out so that you see a new article on the right side of the page.
Perfect.
Okay, that was the intent of that. Thank you, Carl. And Benita.
Benita too.
I recognized her. I heard her. Okay, Article 7. Let me see where my next changes are. Hold on. I have the hard copy with my changes to see where they are. Oh, we'll hit some changes in the fire and police commissions in a moment, but no changes here. Again, some of those internal things. This one's going to be, this is a holdover from one of my other charters. I actually took this reference out. This is the definition section for a public notice. I'm not going to, I've eliminated that in the most recent version of this. Again, capitalizations, minority party representation. I did make not a substantive change, but in the shall, you'll see what I did in the shall apply provision. This provision, shall reflect, the position shall be in compliance with the requirements of the general statutes. I remembered I did that one because I didn't like the way it read. To make sure we need to be in compliance, not reflect the requirements. We shall be in compliance with the minority party representation provisions. Again, minor changes. Electoral requirement, we now have cleaned that up in the definition section. Board of Estimate. I'll tell you what I did, give you a little preview. This is with dealing with the shall stuff. Let me see if I can find it quickly on my other screen. I took the shall, there shall be a commission. I think I started off, the 7-member board of estimate is comprised of 6 electors. So, I took out there shall be. Well, we know it. It's right here. It exists. So the board of estimate comprised of 6 electors, and then however I dealt with the compensation. But I just want to give you a sense. I've changed all the introductory there shall be sections to an affirmative statement that the Board of Estimate and Taxation is comprised of X number of people. Public notice, reference to the section. I don't think we need to reference the section every time. Budget process, the Article 10. Okay, police commission. The section that Benita is concerned about is in the police department. We'll get that a little later. One of the points I do want to make out, and this is being responsive to one of the people who spoke this evening. One of the difficulties in the police and fire commission sections is, and this is something you may look at in within the next 2 years with the next charter revision. Again, we were not making substantive changes, and there is a clamor, and there is public support for more public oversight and involvement in these matters, police and fire matters, more police than fire, but both. And they tend to be drafted in parallel provisions. If you look at the provisions of the two, they're fairly parallel when it comes right down to it. This language on control, management, and supervision is language that's taken from the state statute that establishes police commissions for communities that don't have charters. And that's pretty broad language. A police commission, if they want to be ambitious, can do an awful lot with that language. So while we didn't change the body of the language, it seems to me that if you have an expanded police commission, they can take a look at those words and try to figure out how to exercise their authority within that context. So I just wanted to say that based on my experience around the state, I have seen those sections used very vigorously by activist police commissions. When you get to all these other issues like appointing is easy, because that's not collective bargaining, but removal, suspension, disciplinary punishment, many of these things, and fixing their salaries. That's why I have collective bargaining agreement language in here that wasn't in here before, are really governed by the collective bargaining agreement. So that in the future, if you want to look at discipline, I have a feeling that the suspension responsibility for the police commission, I don't know this, but you'd have to look at the CBA, the bargaining agreement, to see whether they have taken the police commission out of the suspension role. And so what I've done with some charters where they want to start moving the police commission as a body that deals with discipline, deals with suspensions, deals with removals, terminations, and things like that. If they're not in the collective bargaining agreement, and they're specifically not, if somebody else has that function, I think I told you this at the very first meeting, that a collective bargaining agreement has the authority and power of law. It trumps the provisions of the charter. So if you look at this in a year, another commission looks at it in a year, they need to look at those collective bargaining agreements if they want to pump up the powers of the police commission. And what I've done in cities and towns where they don't have powers that they'd like to have is we do put provisions in there recognizing that they're aspirational provisions that basically are saying that we have a provision in this charter and we want the mayor to go to the collective bargaining table next time and give this authority to citizens who are appointed by the mayor and approved by the council to have that authority. So it's not an easy thing to do, and you really have to marry this document to the charter. I'm sorry, to the collective bargaining agreement. This provision we kind of left in. I never got a definitive answer, so I have a feeling this is one we'll clean up, that they have the power to fix the number of people in the department. That's sometimes governed by collective bargaining too, which you think is absurd, but I've seen it in collective bargaining agreements where the police demand and expect that you're going to have a force with X number of people on it, and that's in the agreement. So the power to fix is fixed in the collective bargaining agreement. Now, keep in mind, the collective bargaining agreement is negotiated and approved by your legislative body. But sometimes they don't know these things are in there. They're looking at the 3% raise and the overtime and those things, and they don't see these little power.
I think we can make a suggestion that this be for the next time, and be reviewed with collective bargaining, positions.
Substantively, I wanted your permission, if I get word from the city that and we'll see this again at the end of the document, that the police benefit fund, and you'll see it again, the firemen's benefit fund, firefighters benefit fund are
They've
gone.
gone away.
And I think they are, these will come out. So I just wanted to point out that you may not see this in the next version of the document.
Good.
Same is true in fire. I think the same changes, as I said, they're parallel. And I'm sorry for dwelling on that. Again, this is, I think CBA related. I have not gotten a definitive answer. If I don't, it's going to stay in. I'm going to try to deal with it at the council if we don't get it resolved here, but I just want to explain why that's there. This, again, I hope will be gone by the time you see the document next week. I think we're leaving this in, actually, because it's actually a nice statement. I don't know whether it's trumped by the collective bargaining agreement or not, but it's a very aspirational and healthy statement about being appointments based on merit and fitness for duties, and not upon political affiliation. And so I think that I've got to clean up the reference to the general statutes, but otherwise that will probably stay in. Again, now we go into these, and keep in mind, so we are stating, I think for the first time, that these boards and commissions are mandated. I think this is all new, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I mean, many of them exist, but what we're saying here is you need to have these boards and commissions, and they should be created by ordinance, and many of them already are. I think new to this is
So why is Board of Ethics, have appointed by the Common Council? Why is that different? Yeah, but almost all the other ones are too. So why is that just highlighted?
because it's appointed by the Common Council, not approved. It's different. The
Okay,
others are appointed
okay,
by the mayor
okay,
and approved by
all
the
right.
council. Yeah, that's the distinction.
okay.
No, good
That
question.
makes sense,
No,
makes
good-
sense.
Good question. All right, now we're in departments. Again, there will be a substantive one near the end when we get to the police department. And I think this is the language I'm going to settle on here is an affirmative vote of 2/3 of the entire membership, I think is the best way of expressing it. I actually got it down there and I'm going to use that throughout the document. No changes in any of these sections. These look like they're new. This is new language, actually. And it states it a little differently. And again, this is transition, not sunset. So I fixed it as a result of that. They remain in full force and effect until replaced by an ordinance upon the effective date of the ordinance and an opinion of the Corporation Council certifying the functions of 14.2 have been addressed by the ordinance. Section 14 shall expire and may be removed from the charter. I think it states it more clearly. These are finance functions that I moved to the historical section that will be part of those transitions that people feel are either redundant or overly codified that you can't really, that they need to examine them in an ordinance.
Can we go back just a quickly?
Where? Tell me.
Well, it's appointment and it's appointment solely by the mayor. And then under that, it says chief of staff. And I just don't understand this word. That's all. The chief of staff should serve coterminous shall serve coterminous with the mayor. It means that the chief of staff has the same term the mayor has, Okay,
but may be removed in the sole discretion of the mayor.
okay.
That's what it's coterminous. It means the same, shall serve the same term with the mayor.
All right.
Thank you. No, it's a good question.
It's a good
It
word.
almost sounds like a medication, doesn't it?
Mm.
Hey.
I want to prescribe some coterminous for you. Please.
Yeah, as long as you're alive with the medication, you're alive.
Yeah.
But you gotta-
All right, the comptroller is,
Here's the controller shall have,
yeah, who,
well, I'm sorry. I'm
Appointed
trying
by
to get
the
to
mayor?
it. There, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the controller is earlier in the chapter. Hold on. I'll tell you where it is.
the only reason I'm
Appointed by the
asking
mayor
is,
and confirmed by the council.
okay, because you and I talked about that. a
Yep, and
couple
we
of
weren't sure, but
months.
it's right
Yeah.
there. It's in
Okay,
section 8-2 A.
okay, that's fine. I believe you. I just wanted to make sure.
Nope, got it. And again, I fixed this section. See, sunset's gone. This was a section that was in it. The finance was not. Remember, I moved all those sections out. And this is the same language that you saw in the finance section, and it eliminates, you see it vividly here, the word sunset. I call that the Brescia Amendment. Let's see. I mean, it's a
All
good
right, yeah,
example of pushing
the
me. Yeah,
tax, wait a minute, the tax assessor.
that comes after the collector.
But appointed by,
Hold on. The tax collector is appointed by the mayor,
Mhm.
mhm,
the tax assessor, the assistant tax assessor, the assistant tax collector are appointed by the mayor.
yeah, I don't think it says this. I can't see it right now on the screen.
Where? It's not in the section, it's in the beginning of the chapter.
Okay,
Yeah, in the beginning of the chapter, you have all the appointments, 8-2A, 1.
yeah,
Those
yeah,
are
I just
solely
saw
by
it
the-
read someplace that the power was with the not with the mayor, so that's why I'm checking it.
All right, if you find that, let's fix it.
Yeah, right.
I don't remember
Yeah,
seeing that.
I'll look for it
Yeah,
again.
please be my guest. Absolutely. That's why your eyes are important, folks. No matter how many times I go through this, between now and the end of the council section, the council period, you'll see more fixes when it comes back to you. I guarantee you. I don't think they'll be substantive. At the request of the mayor's office, when they were looking at this, they thought that I had just taken the definition from the ordinances, and they didn't think that, they thought that the line quality of life in the city through the lifespan didn't add anything and was confusing. And I said, well, that's not my ordinance, it's yours. So, I deleted that. I don't think it takes anything away from the functions of the community services department, but I wanted to explain why that was gone. Then there is a reference here to the public library. Not the library, but the public library. It seems to be called the public library, and I thought that was important to say. And now we're going to get to the section that Benita was concerned about. Here it is. That I need a formal vote on. This is the duty of the police to arrest without warrant. So time for all our civil libertarians to stand up and be counted.
Well, isn't this, I mean, you couldn't have this. I mean, isn't it against federal law also and state
Yeah,
law?
one would think. Yeah, but it's a provision. Look, it's a provision in your charter that was granted to you by special act back in 441, back in 1913. This is 1913 and restructured in 1925, et cetera. It's before Supreme Courts started ruling on these types of matters. Now, the current Supreme Court might allow you to do this, but you have to decide where you want to be and who you want to be.
Wouldn't it be like a no-knock warrant? You can't do that, can you?
A no-knock warrant? I don't know. I haven't read the latest Supreme Court cases on that. So this is up to you. I just wanted, I did mark it because Benita raised it at the public hearing, after the public hearing.
Okay,
I would say remove it.
I say
Okay.
remove it.
I say
Andrew?
remove it.
Remove
all
it,
right,
sure.
all right, a motion is on the floor to move, the
Take it
second,
out.
Second.
and to the second, okay. Any more discussion? Okay, all those in favor of,
Aye.
Aye.
okay, it's unanimous.
You will
Remove it.
never see that again. Okay,
Good.
that's gone.
There should be an exception, we could arrest attorneys.
Oh, they get arrested all the time. Don't worry
Okay,
about that,
just
Carl. Yeah, yeah. And it was up to Shakespeare, he'd kill all the lawyers. I get it.
Why is the library 810 taken out?
Because remember I just pointed out the public library is under the functions. This section on special meeting of electors is now in the
Okay.
taxing district section.
Okay,
So it's not, there's no separate section on the
Okay.
library because the library is under a director.
Can I
yeah,
ask
all
a
right.
question? Did the woman that was on the library board or the person that's the director of the libraries, did she get back to us? She couldn't attend the public
Never gave
meeting?
us any.
No,
I've not heard from anybody.
no,
Okay.
And can I also point out that at the beginning of the week, I sent the definitions to the 4 taxing districts for them to look at the definitions that we came up with that we talked about earlier this evening. And I've gotten no response whatsoever at this point. I will send them tomorrow a reminder note telling them I really would love to have their comments. I wanted to have them before today. If they send anything in substantive, I will let the whole
Yeah.
group of you know that it has come. Now, you guys are going to look at that section anyhow, and so we'll have to figure out how we want to deal with that. But I did.
We could-
Yeah.
could we do that with the library as well? Because she did email us.
Yeah.
And there's confusion on, her concern, I believe, is not part of the charter. It's more in a definition.
I don't even know
of duties.
how would I contact her?
I'll give you the information
Okay.
tomorrow.
Very good. I'll be here.
I have her email.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Are there any changes on?
In number 1, 9-1, number 1,
Yes, sir.
it said there shall be, I would say it should be a Board of Education.
Yeah, I'm going to change that. Remember the same way I talked about the Board of Education, and I don't know, under the control of, but what does that mean? I'm going to do a similar thing in this section I did in the earlier sections. I'm working on getting rid of my shalls. It's going to be the Board of Education comprised of 9 members. And remember, we defined them earlier in the document.
Mhm.
Shall be electors of the city it shall be electors. We don't have to say of the city of Norwalk, so we haven't changed this at all. But I'm going to make the change when I get to the shall correction here, that the Board of Education is comprised of 9 members.
Okay.
So there won't be, there shall be, and the letter A was missing from that, which is interesting. Wonder why, 473. I'm just curious about that. That's
B was missing.
yeah, no, I got it. I put it back in. I
Yeah.
put it in. But that was missing in the current charter because that's current language.
Mhm.
That's weird. Okay. I'm glad you caught it, but we're going to change it anyhow.
Okay.
I don't know what to do with this. I'm going to leave it here. I had a note to talk to Tom Mooney, their lawyer, to find out what on earth this means. But
It means to me they can hire somebody before they have the money ready
yeah,
to.
and I just don't think there's any basis in legality for that under the education statutes. But again, I don't want to mess with the Board of Education. This is almost like the taxing districts. I don't want to take something out of the Board of Education. I think the section's a nullity. While it's at the city council, I will try to talk to Tom Mooney to see if I can get acquiescence for the Board of Education to get rid of that section. Because it doesn't make any sense. Oh, and here, business day, I accidentally capitalized day, and it's not the day, it's a business day, so it's different. It's a different reference, so it's not a capitalized D. Budget, no changes. Just, internal reference changes. And here we have the provision. I didn't change anything. Periodic review. We have to do a review no later than September of 2025 in order to review the work of the 2023 commission and address issues that were not examined during that time. My God, during that time. So I just wanted to show you that that's where that is, but let me make sure I correct it during that time. Okay, so that's the substance of part 1 of the document. Now we'll go to part 2. This hopefully won't take too much time. Part 2 is the taxing districts. And again, really no substantive changes. I promised somebody from the taxing district, somebody actually did reply to me, and I told them that I would give them a red line version of what's in the current charter and what's in the proposed charter. But I told them the only way to do it in the right way is to take my reorganized charter baseline, and I have the trust that I didn't change anything, and compare this to that, because otherwise.
Do you know who that was, Steve?
Yeah, it was your colleague, the woman who.
Elsa.
Elsa
yeah.
Peterson, Oglotsky. Okay,
Yeah, and I promised her that I would.
so that's the first taxing
First
district.
taxing district,
Yeah.
yeah. I told her I would do a red line, if that's okay with
Okay.
you. I will do that for them so they can see that. And you'll see the changes, again, are mainly capitalizations of defined terms. I don't know why I have this in yellow.
But, on this, I think it's going to be important that we schedule going to all of the taxing district meetings and for the discussion of the charter.
Well, I think you definitely should. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely,
it's
absolutely.
going to be very important to do that.
I was debating this and I'll leave it to you to direct me on this. I think I'm going to fix the internal references. Give you an example right up here in H. These are references to the current charter provisions. And it says of the act. Now I think I have to keep the references to the act. Okay, I'm going to leave those references as is, because those are to the original act, and that would screw things up. So I'm going to leave those to the act, but there are some that are internal to this document, and my instinct is to change them unless you think that will raise suspicions. But my concern is, because the numbering is different, that it's not going to make sense. And so I think that I have to do it. Let me see if I have an example of that. Oh, here's the library section I put in here. 12-6, it's under the opening sections of the special of the
Yeah.
taxing district, so I put
Yeah.
that in here. And
Yeah,
then,
but that was changed by ordinance.
I'm sorry,
This is the library.
yep, but
Okay.
this is the section that you were concerned about me
I know,
eliminating.
but why did you cross out first taxing district?
Oh, because that's what was in here first. Here it is, the first taxing district since 12-7.
Okay.
It was 12-6.
Okay,
It's a red line, so
okay. All
remember,
right.
I just put this in here, so it displaced the first taxing district as the next section, that's all. See,
Okay,
there it is.
yep.
Again, no changes, substantive changes here. Again, here's an example. I mean, I think I have to, there is no 1-22 in this document now. They'd have to go back and look at the old document. I mean, I suppose I could say in section 22, 1-22 of the prior charter, might be another way to do with it, and not.
That might be the easiest.
Yeah, and not get in any trouble. So maybe that's the way to do it. Of the charter in effect prior to 2024,
Right.
whatever. I'll come up with language. All right, I think that's the cleanest way to do it. And that way I'm not raising any suspicions. I'll just deal with it that way. But again, you'll see there's no, oh, here's the, I want to see if give an example. Oh, here it is. Here's what I was having a problem with this. Finding the official has not removed his or her domicile to upon a finding that the official has not removed or
Their
Yeah.
domicile?
well, I said removed or vacated a domicile from the first, their domicile, whatever it may be. But it's not there. Well, I guess it is there in some parlances, but that was the problem I was having with the way it was. Does anybody have any thoughts on that? Angela, do you have any thoughts on how to more clearly articulate this one, or Benita? Does there do it?
There.
I said a domicile because I was trying to be gender neutral and not have anything in there, but
There could be used. Let's see, finding.
Not remove their domicile.
well, but if it's only one person, I don't
Not
know.
removed or
But still,
their domicile.
Yeah, there I think is,
There. is
Okay, so
fine.
I'll do remove or vacate their domicile.
yeah, yep,
It's ownership, so it could
Yeah.
be one or more.
exactly.
All right, their domicile. I'll fix that. Good. I'll fix that. It's good help. Thank you.
Mhm.
Again, no changes. I'm kind of go through this quickly without getting anybody nauseous. Tell me if it's. Well, that'll be helpful if I do the references to the prior charter. That'll be an easier fix. And Patsy, I don't think I'm going to go through this and change the shalls and the must.
no,
Okay. All
no,
right, good. All right, just want to make sure you're okay with
no,
that.
because that will show them that we're not changing,
Yeah,
you know,
and we have the definition for how that's used in our charter,
Yeah,
and it'll
right.
apply here.
and
but
that,
we're-
yeah, and
yeah.
that's part of the cleanup that
Yep.
needs to come
Yep.
the next time.
And I left the newspaper requirements here. Remember, the definition says unless otherwise required by the charter. I'm not
Mhm.
changing that in their section.
No. No, we don't want to change anything.
Nope, that's the point. So I just wanted to show you that. I'll tell you, they have some really good provisions, ethics provisions in the
Yeah.
in their section are much better than the ethics provisions in the main portion of our
No,
charter.
I was chairman of their removal commission, which
Yeah,
is.
I'm telling you, they're really,
ethics.
really good
Very
provisions.
tight. Very, very tight.
Yeah, no, really impressive. I have to say, all All right, I'm sorry, I don't want to go any faster than this.
Right.
I want to get to the next section to show you what I did at the end. And we're almost there. Okay, come on, Steve. Let's try to get this done. I mean, you're not seeing a lot of change here.
We need to
This
get
is
to
it.
the
Here we are.
sunset, yeah.
There we are. Historical provisions. Okay, remember? Whoops.
Yeah.
It no longer says sunset. It says historical provisions. And then the first part of it is the Norwalk Harbor. The historical council districts, you'll see them in a minute. But Norwalk Harbor is where it starts. Here's Norwalk Harbor. All these sections, this was in a different portion. I didn't change anything. I just moved it into the first of the historical sections so that it's laid out there. I left the street sidewalks and building line provision in this historical section. There was still some debate as to whether it should be here.
Okay, yeah, there's one that I'm concerned about here, and that's West Avenue.
But it's not going anywhere.
North-
This is not a transition, so it's here. So if you're concerned, as I was going to recommend that we take it out,
Yeah.
I heard what you said, and I said, let's just leave it as a historical provision.
Because there are several parcels that were remnants from the Route 7 construction that I don't think have been finalized and turned over to the city.
So I'm just,
Yeah, okay.
yeah. Oh, I got to figure out what to do with,
Yeah.
another one is Mary Eldridge, I think.
And
Mary Eldridge, Mary E. Eldridge.
There you go.
Yeah, I want to, I'm still waiting for final answer on that. And then the
Rick
last,
hasn't been able to find her any.
I can't find any.
yeah, no one could find her. So I think it's done, but I need to have somebody tell me definitively that it's done.
Right, because I don't know if it's been passed on or anything. It's just,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Then the police benefit fund, and then you'll see the retirement, the firefighters retirement fund. Those are historical provisions, because if I don't get word that this needs to come out, this is the yellow's off and this is staying in the charter. It's not a transition provision. As such.
Who are you seeking to give you that answer, provide the answer?
The final answer I'm looking for is from the personnel
Okay.
What's her name?
Okay.
Yeah, I know who I'm in touch with somebody. So
Tina Fogel, yeah.
I'll try them again tomorrow. I'll call the new chief of staff and see if he can light a fire.
Hey, Steve,
Yeah,
since I know the fire and the police attorney very well, should I maybe reach out to him and see if it's still in there?
if you don't mind, that'd be wonderful, Rick. If I as much confirmation as I can get, and if they can give me a letter saying that they have no police or firefighters retired or otherwise covered by this old historic fund that doesn't exist any longer, boy, I'd love that. That'd be great.
Yeah, I'll be with him tomorrow night. I'll be able to get
All
that.
right. 14-1 are the historical council districts, which will be repealed upon conclusion of reapportionment for the 2025 election. So that's, remember, I eliminated them at the beginning of the section. They're in what is called Article 14 is the historical transition provision. Let me just see it. Whoops. And so these are the ones are transitioning out of the charter. They're underlined because I moved it from an earlier version. I moved it from the beginning of the former sunset provision.
This is going to be an issue. I'm just making a statement.
Well, then take it up with the United States
Yeah.
Constitution. That's all I have to say. Yeah. I would think there are some communities that would be very interested in having redistricting.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure the city has changed a lot since 1962. And these are the finance provisions. These were new that I put in here after our last meeting. That these will be moving to the ordinances. The next, I think, will be controller. The controller's provisions. which sound like a job description. It's so detailed. And then the purchasing agent and the tax collector, maybe the assessor also. Basically, their functions are governed by state law, not by these provisions of the charter. And I think this is the assessor's function. Oh, no, this is public works and
Yeah,
operations.
good luck with that, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see it.
There it is. So I think that's it. That's it. And there's the end notes.
Okay, so what's your target now to get us the,
Yeah, my target is early next week, maybe over the weekend. If you could divide it up and look at the chapters that you looked at before. I'll try to get to you as early as I can. Did you want to look at those taxing district definitions one
Yeah.
more time?
yes, I will.
Get your
I
points
will.
back, get them back to me. I will run them by, if what we do tonight is approve the document with the changes we made, subject to edits that council will provide the body with, the members of the body with. If there's any objection, if we need to have a meeting, we have time between now and June 2nd to have another meeting if we need to.
Okay. There was
but,
one thing that I saw on page 66, is there a municipal historian? We talked about this once.
Oh, yeah, we did.
And we were gonna check on that and.
It's in
I
the
don't think-
ordinances. That's the only reason it showed up here.
Yeah,
It's
there
in the
used to
ordinance.
be one, but I don't know if there is anymore. And I don't know what happened to it, but it's a subject that's very popular right now in Norwalk.
So having it here is a good thing or a bad thing? That's what.
Well, there's just a lot of activity to maintain the history of Norwalk, with a lot of, museums and things that we have.
Well, this mandates it, so it means that
I know.
it
I
needs to
know, but
be.
I don't have any idea who that could be. So,
When's the last time we had one?
well, was Ralph Bloom?
Historian?
Well, yeah, Rick, are you here?
Yeah, I haven't left.
That was the last one I
I
remember.
do not believe that.
And
there
then
is
I thought
historian,
Tommy O'Connor, ex-mayor O'Connor, was after Ralph.
but I
And
don't,
then,
I do not believe, I will look into it tomorrow. I do
Okay.
not believe there is a historian anymore.
yeah, I don't think there is
You can
either.
tell
Yeah,
It's actually done through the Norwalk Museum.
Historical
Diane
Commission.
Gillette- Diane Gillette handles it through there, and a lot of it comes through our office.
Do you want to
Yeah.
take it out, or do you want to say to the council, we put
Well-
it in because there's an ordinance?
yeah, I'd like to know whether there is one, or first of all, I don't know, if there is one currently.
I do not know who it is. It's-
No, I don't either.
I will look tomorrow.
Okay.
Or let me know, Rick, and I'll include
Yeah.
my final draft, what the conclusion is. And
Okay.
why don't you give me the instruction that, well, I don't know what you want to say. If there is none, do you want it in or out? I mean, if there is none and you want one, do you want it mandated is what it comes down to, but
I would probably take it out.
it's in effect an unfunded mandate.
Well,
I don't want to start doing that.
Taking it out without discussing it with the historical commission might be an issue.
Well,
So,
that's, I was saying taking it out because it comes now under the jurisdiction of the Historical Commission.
Yeah,
in July.
yeah,
It's in the
Um,
code of ordinances. That's why I elevated it. I took
Yeah.
every person appointed by the mayor and appointed by, it's in section 57A-6 of the current ordinances. And what I did is, when I was going through this and finding out who the mayor appoints and who the council approves, I treated them all equally and put them in the charter for purposes of, we could say municipal historian, if any, I mean. but we say
so
that-
let's check. We'll check. Okay,
Okay, let me know. So,
okay.
so what would be in order now is a motion to approve the charter, all your work for the last number of months, subject to further edits and consultation between council and the members of the commission. And, you know, and a final kind of a sign off from everybody that they're comfortable with the changes that will be made between now and the time I send it over to you.
Okay,
Make
so,
that motion. I'll
right,
second
so
that. I'll
Rick-
second that emotion.
okay, any discussion on the motion?
Is there a second?
I
Yes.
seconded that emotion, yeah.
Carl seconded, Rick
Okay.
made the motion, Carl
Good.
seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I-
Anyone opposed? The motion passes
Nice
unanimously.
job, team.
Wow, wonderful, guys.
Nice job, team.
So now a motion to adjourn is in order?
Before you adjourn, can I just say, this won't be the last time we get together, so I'm sure we'll get to make valedictories at some point, but it's been an absolute pleasure working with all of you in this process. I think you should be proud of the work. It's a pretty substantive thing that we're on the verge of accomplishing here. And there's still work, and there are probably gonna be some bumps in the road, but I've been very, very happy working as your counsel, and you've pushed me sufficiently to make sure we're getting a better document than if you left me on my own. And I just want to thank everybody, including the chair, Patsy.
Well,
Likewise.
and you certainly have
Thank you.
educated us, and I appreciate that immensely, and I'm sure everybody else does too. So thank you, Steve.
My pleasure. Thank you, everybody.
Class act, Steve. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Hey,
good night,
thank you so
everybody.
much.
We are adjourned.